REI Co-op presents a perfect outdoor moment with the perfect gift. Picture this. You're ripping with your favorite person. Bluebird skies, blower powder, and frankly, you're skiing like legends.
So sick. Another lap?
Thanks to REI's curation, from lid to sticks, you nailed the gift.
No way. How'd you know?
Does it get more perfect than that? Give without guessing. Shop in store or visit rei.com.
Did my card go through?
Oh no.
Your small business depends on its internet, so switch to Verizon Business. And you can get LTE business internet starting at $39 a month when paired with select business mobile plans. That's unlimited data for unlimited business.
There we go.
Get the internet you need at the price you want. Verizon Business. Starting price for LTE business internet, 25 megabits per second unlimited data plan with select Verizon Business smartphone plan savings. Terms apply.
Experience a membership that backs what you're building with American Express Business Platinum. Enjoy complimentary access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection and a welcome offer of 200,000 points after you spend $20,000 on purchases on the card within your first 3 months of membership. American Express Business Platinum. There's nothing like it. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum.
Hello and welcome back, all my fellow Onryo, samurai, raiders, outlaws, outcasts, people with bounties on their heads or not, tavern goers. Welcome one and all back to this episode of the Ghost of Tsushima Yotei Gamecast, the official launch of our Season 2 of this podcast, starting with the full Ghost of Yotei game review. Spoilers included, everyone. I can't believe that it has already been, 6 weeks or something like that since the last episode of this podcast dropped. I'm happy to say I have completed, not only completed playing through the game, but actually Ghost of Yotei became my first ever platinum completion on my PlayStation account. So took a little extra time to do that just so I could kind of talk about it and report on that. I really wanted to do a full run through and accounting of the game before doing this episode. And, a part of me thought that, a 50-hour game or something I might be able to get through pretty quick. Turns out 50 hours of extracurricular time in adult life is, pretty difficult to come by. So it took me a little longer than I wanted, but I'm super excited to be back here and doing a review and breaking it all down for all of you. I've missed podcasting. So all right, we're just going to dive right in. Wow, I mean, I can't believe that, this game has come out and the world has played it. I've gotten to see tons of photo contests and, just screenshots and people playing around with the photo mode and just lots of cool stuff that everyone's done, lots of discussion about it. So I'm going to start by talking about the main storyline. I'm just going to do kind of, go through the main storyline, an overview of it, and, we'll just go from there. So, everyone knows that, this story was a revenge story. That was advertised from the very beginning. And this was very different from what happened in Ghost of Tsushima, where you're facing down a Mongolian invasion and Jin Sakai is raised as a very honorable samurai, and the story there is how Jin navigates adhering to or not adhering to those samurai principles in the face of the Mongolian invasion and being really one of the last samurai alive on the island. In Ghost of Yotei, the main character Atsu, she is she's really spent most of her life being a mercenary, and she just does not really have any type of fighting code the way that Jin does. And her whole purpose in life is revenge against the Yotei Six for the murder of her family when she was just a little girl. And yeah, that traumatic event pretty much, changed her whole life and set her on this path to becoming the Onryo, a well-trained mercenary warrior who would eventually return to Ezo, the northernmost region of Japan, to fight and destroy the Yotei Six. So a much different story and a much different feel to it than what we had in Ghost of Tsushima. All in all, and again, like I said, I'm going to dive into some specifics in a bit. I'm just doing a general overview here. All in all, it's definitely a much different feel, and I think people noticed that. I think a lot of people liked the story in Ghost of Tsushima more, but a lot to say on that. I'll get to in a second. So the next thing I want to get to is just the historical setting. I found the historical setting to be really cool in this. So the game takes place in 1603, which is a vastly different time in Japan than 1274 when Ghost of Tsushima takes place. I almost kind of felt like you didn't really. So let me say this: by this point, 1603 in Japan, the whole mainland has been unified under one banner. And that is not really the case in this game, which again, it's kind of fictionalized, but because it's set in the Ezo region, which is again the furthest northernmost part of the Japanese islands, you have this feeling of being disconnected from the shogun's watch and rule, basically. And part of the story that's playing out is the shogun, has dispatched Clan Matsumai to battle Lord Saito to essentially tame the whole Ezo region. So yeah, it ends up being a lot different, but you get a lot of references to just like some of the events rooted in fact that happened in the unification of Japan, and you have the presence of guns and various things that make the historical setting just a bit different than it was in Ghost of Tsushima. And one thing I thought was really, really cool in the historical setting was the inclusion of the Ainu people. And I'm gonna do an episode about the historical truth of the game setting and everything. I'm not going to do all that here. This is more of a review. I just wanted to say that the inclusion of the Ainu was really cool because the Ainu were real, and they do a decent job in alluding to the fact that the Ainu are being displaced in this time, and this is kind of what happens. This is the start of the Ainu being displaced, generally around this time, around these decades. So all that was really cool. And I thought the historical setting was cool of the shogun's reach is kind of starting to expand to the furthest corners. And what you're really starting to see is the establishment of, civilized society, essentially. A society of laws, rules, order. And it's not just having them, but the fact that they're actually widely enforced. And you're having centralized government. You're starting to have roads put in everywhere, bridges, and I guess you could say a nationalized police force sort of thing, where it's again, that is the enforcement of whatever rules are created and drafted. So you're starting to see those themes come up throughout the game. It actually reminded me a lot of Red Dead Redemption 2, where it's towards the end of the 1800s, the American West is not really this lawless place that criminals and outlaws can just go hide out in anymore. More and more, it's getting harder and harder to escape the U.S. government by that point. And so there's kind of a lot of similarities here in how that's showing up in the game as it does in Red Dead 2. So, I thought all that was cool. I'll move on from the historical setting. So here's one thing I thought was awesome about the main storyline. So you're setting out to defeat Lord Saito, And Lord Saito is the leader of the Yotei Six. You start the game by killing the snake, who's one of them. And they made this. I really like the snake, even though you don't get to like hear from him too much. You know, I thought he was a really cool enemy, and he just seems like, you know, very wicked. And how his boss fight really wasn't that hard. It was literally the opening of the game, basically, and you playing it. But so then, you know, before you can get to Lord Saito, you have to defeat all the other members of the Yotei Six. And you're trying to find Lord Saito, but, you know, you're doing that by tracking down the other members of the Yotei Six first. The Kitsune and the Oni, his two sons, you know, him, and then the snake. So what was really cool about the way that the story went down was all the player choice. In Ghost of Tsushima, it was a pretty linear game where it's like there's Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and, you know, like you can only progress one way through the story for the most part. There's very little exception to that. Whereas in this game, like, once you complete the first mission or two that are like kind of like introduction, it's like giving you your weapons and like, you know, showing you how to do stuff. The whole map just opens up and you can go whichever direction you want to, basically. And yeah, I mean, you know, you can head straight to the Golden Foothills to find which leads you to Ishikari Plain to take on the Oni. You can go to Teshio Ridge. You can hit the Saito Training Fortress out in the marshlands of the Tokachi Range. And, you know, so really you can head to any of these regions at any point that you choose. And once you do all that, after you clear the you know, Ishikari Plain and you complete the Teshio Ridge and the marshlands and all this stuff, then the final section of the game in Oshima Coast will open up, and then you can kind of head there. But yeah, I mean, this was much different than how it played out in Ghost of Tsushima. And all in all, I thought there were things that I liked about it more. There were actually a couple things I liked about it a little less. Overall, I wouldn't say the way the story plays out with the type of player choice that you're handed in this game, I wouldn't say it's better or worse than in Ghost of Tsushima. I would say it's like, you know, about just as fun in the end. There's other things about the story I'm going to say in a second, but you know, yeah, so that was really cool in choosing how you can progress. And yeah, I mean, what actually happened for me is I ended up going straight to Teshio Ridge, which was all the way in the north. That's like the furthest northmost part of the map. You start in the Yotei grasslands, and then you have to ride through Tokachi Range, which is some beautiful plains, and then you have to eventually get to the Nyoro Wilds, and then from there take a ferry up to the Teshio Ridge. And so I just kind of like beelined it straight up there, and it was pretty cool because and I'll tell you guys why I did that. I did that because I really wanted the kunai, and the quests were telling me like, oh, you have to go to Teshio Ridge to get the kunai. So I also wanted the Kusarigama, and that quest was leading me to Teshio Ridge. And I was like, all right, well, it seems like Teshio Ridge has a lot of, you know, cool parts of the game that you can only unlock after you get there. So I was like, let me just go straight there so I can unlock all this stuff. I didn't really realize how far away it was, and that like once you get there, you know, you weren't necessarily stuck there, but I think on a mental level, to me, it felt like once I was there, I was there. I was like, all right, like I'm here, you know, time to take out the Kitsune and, you know, complete this whole section of the map, and then I'll go back. And what was so cool about this is I completed Teshio Ridge 100%. I did not leave until it was done. So I had found every altar of reflection. I'd leveled up all the way. I'd completed the story. I'd gotten every set of armor, like everything you could get from there, I had gotten, you know. So by the time I left Teshio Ridge, I was way more powerful leaving it than I was going there. And so by the time I went back to, I guess what I'll call like the mainland section of Ezo, the more central part of it, where again it's like you have the Yotei grasslands that is directly connected to the Tokachi range and the Nyoro wilds, so it just makes it kind of like a bigger, more centralized area. Once I got back there, I was like, oh, now I'm way leveled up and ready. And it was cool because the Teshio Ridge was frozen. It was like a frozen tundra sort of area. And I thought it was just really, really like snowy, beautiful, super cool. But I also felt like, and this is totally me just projecting this onto the game, but I felt like it like hardened my character, where it was like, all right, I've been up in the cold. I've taken on the Nine Tails and the snow ninjas and, gotten the kunai, been through some stuff, had some tough experiences, and now I'm back and I feel like I'm leveled up and I'm ready to like go through the rest of this game. So it was cool to do that because other people might not have that same experience. Some people, I think actually a lot of people from what I see, started by going to Ishikari Plain, or they actually went to the grass or to the marshlands to do the Lord Saito training fortress quest first. And so I don't know, like it's just that's part of what's cool about player choice. Like everyone's gonna have a different feel of how their own playthrough felt and what it was for them, as opposed to again Ghost of Tsushima, which I'm not saying one is better or worse than the other. I really think they're equally good. They're just different, which is cool. Ghost of Tsushima, it's like we all kind of had the same experience for the most part. Like, there's a couple quests that you can do at whatever order you want, but it doesn't really make that much of a difference. But for me, it felt like it made a big difference because, by the time I got to Ishikari Plain, I had the Kusarigama and the Kunai and, just some of the other stuff that you can get from the Teshio Ridge, and vice versa, And so, yeah, I guess I'll move on from this. But so I thought all that was the player choice aspect was really cool. I'm going to dive into more of the regions in a second. So just more of the overview stuff. The wolf and companions part of the game I wanted to get to. I love the wolf. I thought the wolf was super cool. I don't think the wolf didn't have as big of a part in the game as I thought it was going to based on the trailer. I thought the wolf was like, I don't know. I wasn't even sure if the wolf, like, was the wolf going to be able to talk to you, or like how much of your friend is the wolf? The wolf really like didn't accompany you that much. You could kind of summon the wolf, intermittently, and there's ways you can like summon the wolf more or less, but the wolf was not just like running around with you throughout the whole game or anything like that. And I kind of thought that would be the case. But with that being said, the wolf was still really cool, and I loved having the wolf along. And there were some cool moments, and I'm gonna get to the wolf dens and the activities and everything too. Yeah, so I do have to say I kind of thought that I felt like, for me personally, I didn't feel super attached to any of the companions in the game. I liked Oyuki,
The Who's Down in Who Newville were making their list, but some didn't know. Walmart has the best brands for their gifts.
What about toys? Do they have brands kids have been wanting all year?
Yep, Barbie, Tony's, and Lego. Gifts that will make them all cheer.
Do you mean they have all the brands I adore?
They have Nintendo, Nespresso, Apple, and more.
What about...
So the Who answered questions from friends till they were blue. Each one listened and shouted, from Walmart? Who knew? Shop gifts from top brands for everyone on your list in the Walmart app.
Good morning, Crust. It's a great day to be a bread brother.
Ugh, mornings are not my jam. Or jelly.
Oh, come on. Stop loafing around.
I just woke up feeling hollow inside.
Psst, just grab one of the new Morning Uncrustables sandwiches, like Bright-Eyed Berry or Up an Apple, filled with 12 grams of protein and tons of deliciousness. Crust, what are you eating?
It's just granola, not even yogurt.
No crust, no fuss. Uncrust your mornings.
I liked Master Enomoto. I mean, there's nobody I disliked, and I thought they were all like, again, fine companions, but I kind of feel like there weren't too many like side stories to do with them to really flush out their backgrounds, and there were like a couple, you know, but that's much different than in Ghost of Tsushima, where you know you've got 9 different quest lines that you can do for Norio, for Lady Masako, for you know, Master Sensei Ishikawa. Like, so yeah, I definitely felt more attached to the companion characters in Ghost of Tsushima than I did in Ghost of Yotei. I still thought they were fine in you know, in Ghost of Yotei, but yeah. And then something else that really just made the game feel a lot different was Atsu as a character. You know, like Atsu. So again, I mentioned the revenge story, but you really see throughout the game how Atsu carries the trauma and the scars of what happened to her as a kid. And again, like she's basically just spent her life being like a lonely, roving mercenary, like never thinking about, you know, is she next in line to lead her clan like Jin was, never thinking about having a family. Like she literally was just like, no, I'm out for revenge. That's all I'm going for. And that's pretty much it. So created a much different sort of feel. And, you know, you get a lot of flashbacks with Atsu to her childhood. And again, they added in this cool feature where when you're at your home in the Yotei grasslands, the Atsu's childhood home, you can, you know, hit the center button and I don't know if they call it the PlayStation button or what, but you can kind of like, you know, flash back and then run around and just like at will do activities and stuff with your family, your mother, your father, and Jubei. So I thought that was all really cool. And again, it like you really see a lot more of Atsu as a child and just the way she was affected, which as opposed to Ghost of Tsushima, where I feel like it's kind of more straightforward. The flashbacks are mostly for like tutorials and trainings, and then you get like, you know, a couple where it's like sentimental to show you a thing or two that happened between Lord Shimura and Jin that are like important moments, but I didn't feel like they were as emotionally impactful or they like flush out as much about Jin's background when you compare it to Atsu. So yeah, just interesting to notice that. All right, now I'm gonna kind of dive in to the kind of the specifics of the main story and how I was feeling about a lot of it more. That was kind of just the overview part, but now I'm going to just, you know, dive into this. So one thing about the story that I thought was a lot better than in Ghost of Tsushima, and again, I didn't hate this in Ghost of Tsushima, but I saw this as a complaint from a lot of people, and it is something I can understand, and it's definitely true, but a lot of people definitely felt that in Ghost of Tsushima, the quest activities were all a bit repetitive, where it's like, you know, oh, investigate here, oh, follow the tracks and run this way. Okay, that's it. Like, you know, oh, clear out this place, and then you do some scouting, and then like it was kind of like the same sorts of things over and over again. And I actually felt like the activities were not nearly as repetitive in this game. As a matter of fact, in hindsight, like in terms of the investigative part of the game, I felt like you didn't really investigate that much. Like in Ghost of Tsushima, it was like there were whole parts of the game where it was like, okay, go inside this house, and then you have to click investigate 4 times on the controller, you know, or push that button, the right trigger. And then like, you know, you go outside, investigate the tracks, follow the tracks, investigate them again. Like, so in that sense, it was not nearly as repetitive. And I thought that was a good thing. Like, I think they did a really good job improving that in this game. I think it increases the replayability of it. And again, I never tired of that in Ghost of Tsushima, but I did start to notice it, you know, where I was like, yeah, it's definitely kind of like, you're generally doing the same thing over and over again, like, you know, and that's it. And I guess one could say that about any video game for the most part, if we're being real. But like, you know, some games have it more than others, and Ghost of Tsushima, I definitely see what people are saying about that. So here is an interesting thing. Moving on from that. So I read an article about this, and I realized it summed up exactly what I was feeling on this. But so in Ghost of Tsushima, there's a sense of urgency throughout the entire story that really doesn't exist in Ghost of Yotei. And I think that can make the story feel slower than the Ghost of Tsushima story does. And I'll elaborate on what I mean here. In Ghost of Tsushima, it's like the opening scene begins and you see thousands of Mongols land. The samurai get wiped out at Komoda Beach, and then it's like, oh man, there's a sense of I need to go out and save people. Like there's an occupying force, and they just want to conquer and basically just murder and pillage, just everywhere, and that was not the case in Ghost of Yotei, because Lord Saito is trying to establish control of Ezo, but at the same time, you have the Matsumai as your essentially good guy allies for the most part. We can dive into that more, but and so they have an army, they have a home base. So it's not really like, oh my God, I'm the only one if I'm not out there saving Tsushima or saving my home from the enemy. No one else is going to. So it kind of just removed a certain sense of urgency, and in a sense that could be good because it does make the story feel a little more relaxing. You can feel a little more immersed in it. But I think for me, I'm just going to say this, I kind of started to feel like the story, it just was running out of gas for me just a little bit. Like once I was 2/3 of the way through, I think I'd killed or defeated 3 or 4 of the Yotei 6, and I was getting ready to go to Oshima Coast, and I was kind of being all right, Andrew, I almost needed to drink a proverbial energy drink or coffee. I don't drink either of those two things, but just proverbially I need to kind of do that to all right, let's get through the rest of this story, which I did not have that with Ghost of Tsushima at all. I was like, oh man, Khotun Khan escaped to Act 2, let's go. He escaped to Act 3, let's go. It never really slowed down for me. So that was just how I felt about it going through the game. But I'm curious to know what all of y'all thought. And yeah, I mean, this kind of gets into this, but in essence, I think that the revenge story of Atsu itself, and the circumstances surrounding Atsu's story were less engaging and less interesting than the circumstances surrounding Jin Sakai's story in Tsushima. And I have a big caveat that I'm going to put with this. But I'm going to elaborate on this first. That's what I mean. The Mongolian invasion was really interesting. It was like, oh man, what's going to happen? Are they just going to flatten the island? Is Lord Chimera going to survive? And then there's the whole aspect of how is Jin going to adapt to this? There was a lot that was really intriguing, and I was really curious to see where it went. Whereas the circumstances in Ghost of Yotei around Atsu, it's just all right, we're here for revenge, and that's kind of about it. And obviously I do want to say, I thought the introduction of Jubei back into the story was awesome. And again, this is where the game can feel much different for some people. I did Teshio Ridge first. Jubei, you meet him in Ishikari Plain, and then you begin this story of meeting your brother again and catching up after all this time, and you're talking about starting a new life and all these things, and so for me, I played through Teshio Ridge, and then I completed all of Tokachi Range, all of the Nyoro Wilds. I explored lots of stuff before getting to Ishikari Plain, where I then met Jubei, and I was like, oh, now I feel really excited again to play this. And a part of me regretted not doing Ishikari Plain first, because I think I would have felt more engaged by the story if I'd met Jubei earlier in the game. So that's an interesting thing to note there. But there is one huge thing that I think has to be said when talking about the stories and everything. Even though the story and the circumstances were a bit less interesting in Ghost of Yotei than they were in Ghost of Tsushima. I think the writing was just a million times better in Ghost of Yotei, and I'll tell you guys what I mean and why. Like, I think that they did a lot better job of flushing out the main characters. I mentioned that the side characters, I felt like, I wish there'd been more missions for them. Like, I wish they literally had more screen time and everything. But I felt like they did a much better job of like Atsu talking about her emotions. And again, like the flashbacks you get of her as a child, like there's lots of things where it's like, I just feel like you're seeing a way more complete human being in Atsu than you are with Jin. I love Jin, but I think everyone could agree that there were moments in the game where like it was just a little stiff. Like sometimes the dialogue was just a little short. And like I'll give an example. This actually dives into something I'm going to get into in a bit, but like the hot tubs, like I actually felt like the hot tubs had much better dialogue in this game than they did in Ghost of Tsushima. And like, again, there was just more. I thought the topics were a little more interesting. I mean, there was one topic with or the hot spring. I said hot tub before. With the hot springs, where like one of the subjects you can choose to reflect on is essentially Atsu's love life, and you get like anywhere from like 4 to 5 lines of reflective dialogue every time you go in the hot springs in Ghost of Yotei, whereas in Ghost of Tsushima I really think it's like 2 to 3 lines max. And there were a lot of times in Ghost of Tsushima where I felt like, let's say you reflected on Lord Shimura, right, in a hot spring. I kind of felt like it would be something like this. Jin would just say, oh, like, I really miss my uncle. I wonder what he's doing right now. I hope one day we can find our way back to each other. And like, that's pretty much it. Like, I feel like you didn't really get that much from it. But like with the one on Atsu's love life, I remember she reflects back and says to herself, it's been a long time since I've been with anyone. This loneliness like follows me around. It would be nice to be with someone again, but maybe being lonely is for the better. Like, and again, just that subject, I feel like that is just very interesting. And it's showing you kind of like a softer, more human side of someone. And you just don't really kind of get that as much with Jin. And again, I'm not saying there's not like moments in the with Jin where like the characterization isn't good, but from start to finish of a whole game, I think that the writing was a lot better in Ghost of Yotei. And just again, like Atsu is a much warmer person, less stiff to ride through a whole game with than Jin was, and maybe people would disagree with me on that, but I've generally been seeing that opinion kind of commonly, honestly, or frequently. So again, like, yeah, there's things that are some things that are a little better, a little worse than in comparing the two games. I really think for the most part, a lot of these things, they're just different. They're not necessarily like better or worse. But yeah, so I'm now just gonna dive into like some of the specifics of the story, and we're kind of after this we'll kind of be done with the main storyline part of this episode. But yeah, so I mean, I love Teshio Ridge. As I told you guys, that is the one that I did first. I thought Teshio Ridge was really cool. I thought the Kitsune storyline was really cool. I thought Oyuki being the Kitsune was a really cool twist. And yeah, I mean, and the whole Nine Tails faction and the shinobi, like snow ninjas, were just awesome. I thought that was all so cool. And again, like I thought this, in this sense, I thought that it was cool that there were much more diverse geographic regions, as opposed to, and it was kind of the same in Ghost of Tsushima, but like Act 1, I guess I would say that Act 1 in Ghost of Tsushima was like foresty and beautiful. Act 2 is kind of like swampy, and then Act 3 was snowy. But it didn't. Other than Act 3, I feel like Act 1 and Act 2 didn't really feel too different from each other. Whereas like every region in Ghost of Yotei really felt super distinct, and I thought that was really cool. Yeah, so Teshio Ridge was awesome. I loved the Shinobi, like, puzzles, and that you're having to, like, figure out how like what all these symbols mean, and how they get around, and then finding out that the Shinobi and the Kitsune function as Lord Saito's spy masters were all really cool. And I thought it was a really cool twist that the Kitsune is like it's not just one person. Like anyone can become the Kitsune if they like take the mask, basically. And so that was like very believable, very cool that existed. And yeah, I mean, I'll move on to Ishikari Plain next. I thought Ishikari Plain was again very cool. One thing I was really sad about is the Yari, which is the spear. That became my favorite weapon in the whole game. I loved the Yari, and you only unlock that in Ishikari Plain. I told you guys I kind of did Ishikari Plain like last in Chapter 2. Before going to Oshima Coast, or maybe it's Chapter 1. But yeah, like, so I thought the story in Ishikari Plain, honestly, I thought it was much better because of Jubei. But I thought it was much worse in terms of what actually happens. I personally felt like really aggravated with what was going on in the story in Ishikari Plain, because it was like, you do this thing where you go in, you have Jubei like get captured, but you bring him in, so then you infiltrate it. You free him, you fight the Oni, but it doesn't work, and then you have to like escape, and then then the next part of the quest is just like, get back into the castle to just do it all over again, basically.
No one should have to choose between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Purina is helping to create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters through the Purple Leash Project, so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
And I just kind of felt like it was like kind of taking a long time. So I didn't love that part of the story. I did think it was cool that the Oni was tasked with like repairing, Ishikari Castle, and that you were like seeing the like bamboo scaffolding like all over the castle. I thought that was really cool. And I thought the setting of Ishikari Plain was really cool too. In having just like this war-torn, fiery landscape, and that was like the Oni's whole shtick was like fire, right, and burning and everything. So yeah, I thought that was like a decent story, and it was a cool region. Basically, Mad Goro was hilarious. I just want to say that right now. I thought Mad Goro was so funny. and the fact that Mad Goro shows up in Oshima Coast too just made me laugh so much, so much. Like, and yeah, I wish, a part of me wished I'd gotten even more of Mad Goro throughout the game, but yeah, that was all pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, after you finish Ishikari Plain and the Teshio Ridge, you can then, well, you then have to do the Lord Saito training fortress mission in the marshlands. I thought that was fine. The marshlands were an okay location. You have a fight with Saito, you can say like halfway through the game, and then after you do that, you can chase him to Oshima Coast and head that direction. So yeah, I mean, I thought and we haven't even talked about the Yotei grasslands, but all of these settings were just beautiful. Super beautiful, just like Ghost of Tsushima. I mean, hats off to Sucker Punch for just creating just beautiful graphics, beautiful map, just beautiful, so many locations. I mean, I'm not going to be able to sum them all up, but there's just almost, I feel like, where do you go in this game that isn't just gorgeous? So that was all really cool as you progress through the story and find all that. I will say that my favorite location was definitely the Noyoro Wilds. That was my favorite region, And the Ewar Woods, I just want to say to anybody, if y'all haven't found the Ewar Woods, you have to go check it out. Like, and if you haven't like really explored it and found everything there is to do there, it's not a huge location, but it's like tucked up in the mountains, in the hills near Huskokotan, the Ainu location, the Ainu village. Just absolutely beautiful place. So I thought, just wanted to shout that out. Really cool. So yeah, after you do everything that there is to do, in Ishikari Plain, Taishio Ridge, you clear the marshlands, then you can go to Oshima Coast with Jubei and with Oyuki. And the Oshima Coast storyline was really cool. You dive way more into the Matsumai, Lord Saito clash that's happening. You're definitely seeing it the whole time, but you start the Oshima Coast storyline seeing that Lord Saito's forces have essentially broken into the Oshima Coast region, and they are intending to sack Matsumai Castle. And so then you're like, like engaging in this region that is under imminent attack and potentially imminent capture, which is just very dangerous and concerning. And Oshima Coast was really pretty. When you arrive, there's just like endless cherry blossom trees and just another beautiful scene. Matsumai Castle is really beautiful and really cool to see. Lots of cool stuff in Oshima Coast. And in Oshima Coast, this is the point where you then like see Jubei as a lord of the Matsumai, and you see his home, and you find out that he has a daughter. And you never find out who the mother is, really. You don't ever really hear much about her, but his daughter is named Kiku, and Atsu's relationship with Kiku I thought was really awesome. I thought it was just like a very sweet relationship. And again, like it added so much emotion and complexity and depth to the story and to everything that was going on to have Kiku around. And right away you can see it in Atsu, where it's like Atsu starts to question being this roving, lone, just vengeance hungry Onryo, basically, because she meets this like little girl who looks up to her and wants to be like her, and and she now has family again. Not only does she have her brother back, who she thought was dead for 16 years, but she's an aunt also. And I felt like this was just a super important turn in the story. And if anything, one of my biggest complaints is that we didn't get more in the story, like that this didn't go on for longer. I do think that they did a great job with the quests that you have when you go with Oyuki and Kiku and Jubei to really what I think is like one of the only monasteries in the whole game in Oshima Coast, that you have this like you do this camping quest where you don't even have to fight or anything. You just like show up and then you camp and gather firewood and play songs on the shamisen. Like, I actually loved that quest. That might be one of my favorite quests in both games, because it's just like it's just building out the story. The quest is literally just like, wow, look how good it feels to have family. And I feel like you could see character growth happening in real time with Atsu. And that's part of what I mean about the writing that I was saying before. Like, there's just a lot that feels more emotional and warm. And so at the end of the game, I was about to get there, I guess. But yeah, so that was all of Oshima Coast. And then, after you leave Oshima Coast, you have to go back to the Yotei grasslands, and you're like in the final part of the story where, you have to hunt down Lord Saito and you have to defeat him. And that's after, you defeat the dragon at the end of the Oshima Coast storyline. The spider gets away. You have to find him. I thought the ending of the game was decent. It's kind of about what you would expect, like you track down Lord Saito and you have a final battle with him at your childhood home. I thought that was cool. I guess I just felt like I didn't really feel like the ending was anything special. I didn't feel like it was horrible, but it was like, you fight Saito, you defeat him. I think it was so sad and horrible when Jubei died. That was just so awful. And yeah, I still feel really sad about that. And just to know that like Kiku is orphaned, again at a very young age. I mean, she must have been like 13 or 14, and they're very clearly drawing a line, like a parallel between Kiku and Atsu. Like this, they're both orphaned at like nearly exactly the same age, and Atsu is realizing like, well, I have to be there for Kiku now. After Jubei is killed in the fight with Lord Saito, and she is, and in that sense, I do think the story has an ending that I actually like a lot more than I liked Ghost of Tsushima's. I still thought Ghost of Tsushima's was really good. I just personally wasn't a huge fan of what happened. Whereas like Atsu defeating the Yotei 6 and then essentially, I think the trophy is called the Onryo Rests, and I got an email from PlayStation that said that after I beat the game. But like Atsu lays the Onryo mantle and title to rest, and basically like rebuilds the childhood home to raise Kiku and be like a, I guess mother figure sounds a little too serious, almost like an older sister type of like parental figure for Kiku, and that felt really sweet, and it felt really right. It honestly felt like, because the whole game, everyone was asking Atsu, like, well, what are you going to do after you kill the Yotei 6? And Atsu's always just like, I don't know. I don't care if I live or die, or like, I haven't thought that far ahead. That doesn't matter to me. Like, you just kind of kept getting that, and then it was like, the fact that Jubei comes back into her life gives so much meaning to her, and you see that Atsu connects with Kiku, like, right away, and that they both really like each other. They felt like exactly the right way for the story to end, and so I did really, really like that, and it did feel really heartfelt for me on that part of it. So yeah, I mean, all in all, recapping just the whole main storyline, like, once again, I thought it was a good storyline. I mean, all in all, I think anybody would play it and have a good time. I think anybody would play it and find it interesting. I think that there is a lot to find from it. I personally prefer Ghost of Tsushima's story. I just wish the writing and the dialogue was as good in Ghost of Tsushima as it was in points of Ghost of Yotei. And again, with like the parts with Kiku, like some of those parts really got me. Where I was like, man, this is, because it's like, Jin is never really interacting with a child. That's really the big difference. Like, you're not really like, Jin's in a war zone, and he's not. You don't really see Jin like being a parent or like watching out for a kid. Whereas you're seeing Atsu do that, and that just creates a way different emotional feel than what you're getting out of Ghost of Tsushima. So yeah, all in all, again, like, I don't know. And here's something else. I've been seeing this a lot, and I actually talked to my brother about this, but like, I think that the revenge storyline as a concept in PlayStation games is just kind of like, I feel like it's run its course. Like, we've gotten a bunch of revenge storyline sorts of games now, and again, they're all kind of one-dimensional in like what they are. It's like, well, something bad happened, and now you're going out for vengeance, and that's why you're doing this. And like, for me, I'll just give an example. That can be hit or miss, because for me, in The Last of Us Part 2, I wasn't really on Ellie's side, to be honest. Like, for anybody who hasn't played it, I mean, the main character is Ellie, and you're playing as Ellie in Last of Us Part 2, and you're setting out to find Abby and like exact revenge upon her. But I kind of like, I just, not to dive into the whole thing with that game, but there was a lot that Joel did that was wrong, and you kind of understand where Abby's coming from. And so I was just like I was curious to see where the story went, but I wasn't really on the like, oh, Abby's evil. Like, I think these people are evil train. I just never really felt that. So that's risky because then as a player, I'm not really as invested in the whole revenge storyline as other people might be. Whereas in Ghost of Tsushima, where it's like, oh, yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody wants to see the Mongols literally just, burning villages and murdering people. Like, I think everybody feels pretty equally invested in that. So I think this is almost like just a lesson of caution for Sony developers and PlayStation and game makers going forward, that like we've kind of got. I think people have gotten enough of the revenge storyline. Like, personally, I think we've just gotten a lot of it. So yeah, so all right. I mean, I think that about wraps up the main storyline. I encourage everyone to let me know what you think, or share stuff in the comments or wherever. I'd love to hear. We're gonna move on to our next section now, which is the world building and exploration. And just like, what was the exploration like in this game? Super excited to talk about this. Yeah, so I definitely think that the exploration was one of the biggest steps up in this game from Ghost of Tsushima. And to start off, the spyglass, the spyglass was awesome. And I have to say, like, I don't even know how this criticism would be implemented exactly, but I almost just wish the spyglass was like used more. I wish there were more times to use it. And there were times to use it in the quests, which were really cool, but like to find a high vantage point and then pull out the spyglass, see something on the map, and then have it like, marked to your map, and then just like ride in that direction was awesome. And somehow it just made it feel like easier to want to just explore. And honestly, y'all, that's one of the biggest reasons that it took me so long to like get this episode out. I kept saying to myself, like, all right, like tonight's gonna be the night where I'm gonna make a ton of progress on the story and I'm gonna like really fly through it. And then I'd like, I'd see something off in the distance, I'd pop my spyglass, I'd be like, oh, what's that? Like, oh, a mysterious tree, huh? Like, and then I'd like ride over there, and then the next thing you know, it's like, there's a side quest there, and there's a pillar of honor to find, and there's, a wolf den, and like, and the next thing I know, like, 2 hours have gone by, and I haven't even done a story mission at all. And I was just like, oh my, like, I just kept not getting through the game at all because it was so easy to see locations of interest off in the distance with a spyglass and just want to play it and like be guided that way. And I say this in the best way possible. I thought this was fun. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was super immersive. I think it made the world so immersive, and it made me feel like, again, like I just could play for like a couple hours at a time and just get totally lost in what I was trying to do with just exploring the game. So I thought that was really cool. So they fundamentally changed finding locations in Ghost of Yotei from Ghost of Tsushima. So they added in the traveler maps, where you could buy it from Isaburo, and they would give you locations. So this is much different from what happened in Ghost of Tsushima, where if you cleared all the Mongol camps, eventually all the fog of war would be just like lifted, and then pretty much every location on the map would be marked as a question mark. So it was pretty easy to ride from place to place and just like, find what was there. This was much different because it was very easy to just like miss a location at all because it wasn't marked by a question mark. You had to spot it with your spyglass or get a traveler map to know it was there and place it, or you had to like talk to someone and get the location. But if you don't do any of those things, then like theoretically there's a lot of locations you could miss. So I think this was more realistic, and I think it was more worth it, honestly, to do it this way, because I felt like there was more to, like, you had to actually keep an eye out. Whereas in Ghost of Tsushima, I think it was easy to feel like the map is just like a series of these question marks, and in between all the question marks is just like riding space. Whereas in Ghost of Yotei, you basically never really knew when you were going to come upon something because it wasn't just like fog of war ? System. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. And with the Traveler's maps, you could buy a couple, you could buy up to 3, and then you'd have to like wait and give it some time, and then you could come back to Isaburo to buy more. So, and eventually you'll find like, most of the locations that you need to. And the other thing too is that in this game, Atsu plays the shamisen as opposed to Jin playing the flute in Ghost of Tsushima. And with the shamisen, you can keep learning different songs for it. And you can play the songs to have guiding wind that would lead you to specific places. So this was super cool. You could have guiding wind lead you to the wolf dens or, to the shrines, all of which is very cool. And does help you find places a bit more. And there were golden birds still in the game, so that helped with the exploration as well and finding places. So all in all, again, like I thought things were done that were different. And I didn't think they were worse at all. I think in some ways they were better. They were just different, and I'm not trying to negatively connotate them too strongly one way or the other. One thing that was awesome were the wild horses. Just like in the Yotei grasslands, you have these huge packs of wild horses just like roaming around, and I thought they were just like so beautiful and so cool and like just really exciting. And just like it was so cool to like to just be riding and then just like suddenly have this pack of horses like thundering next to you in the Yotei grasslands. So that was just another like really cool part of the exploration. So yeah, and then the speed boost from the flower streams, that was another really awesome thing. And you can actually get speed boosts from a couple different things. You could find the you could get a technique upgrade where you like if you pick a flower or like find a material, then you get a speed boost from it. So all that was awesome because again, it just speeds up the exploration a little bit. It's like you're literally riding faster as you're going through flower streams and picking stuff up. So all that's just cool. It just makes you feel like you're like flying through the game, and it just adds to the fun of it all. So yeah, I thought the exploration was awesome. Would highly recommend, that aspect of the game. So the next part of the world building I really want to talk about are the activities. I think the activities are some of the funnest parts of Ghost of Tsushima. And like, I'll talk about why. And in Ghost of Tsushima, like, the activities, I think everybody thought the activities were really unique and cool. The bamboo cuts, the hot springs, the Inari shrines, the pillars of honor, like, all those were really cool and unique, and especially the hot springs. It's like, what other game can you just like, chill out and just like a body of hot water and just feel like relaxed, So that was pretty cool. So it's similar in Ghost of Yotei, where all of those things come back. There's hot springs, there's bamboo cuts, there's pillars of the fallen. This time they're not called pillars of honor necessarily. And then there are Inari shrines. They were different in that there were only 11 or 12 of them, whereas in Ghost of Tsushima, I think there's like...
Meet the computer you can talk to. With Copilot on Windows, working, creating, and collaborating is as easy as talking. Got writer's block? Share your screen with Copilot Vision to help spark inspiration, and use Copilot Voice to have a conversation and brainstorm ideas. Or maybe you need some tech help. With Copilot Vision, Copilot sees what you see. Let Copilot talk you through step-by-step guidance so you can master new apps, games, and skills faster. Try now at windows.com/Copilot. The Hyundai Getaway Sales Event is on now with awesome deals on their most popular models, including adventure-ready SUVs like the Hyundai Santa Fe and Santa Fe Hybrid. There's also the stylish Elantra, packed with the latest tech. Or go electric with the Ioniq 5 or Ioniq 6. Visit HyundaiUSA.com or call 562-314-4603 for more details. Offers end January 5th, 2026.
A total of, I don't know, somewhere around like 40 or 50 Inari shrines to find, whereas in this there's only 11 or 12. And again, that's part of the repetition thing. I think that was really smart because I started to feel like the Inari shrines were kind of it started to become a bit of a slog to find them all in Ghost of Tsushima, whereas in this it was like, oh, this is fun. Like I never got tired of it. And that's a great lesson and example of how, less is more sometimes. I think they did a great job with that. So yeah, I mean, it was great to bring back all those things. The bamboo cuts were, again, it's kind of a small thing, but I love the bamboo cuts. And what was even cooler about the bamboo cuts is there were times when you did them in Ghost of Yotei where like a small piece of a bamboo would fly off a first big cut, and then you could like get the small piece too, and that was just like a cool thing to add in. And then there were a couple different cuts through the game where it was actually left-handed, so Atsu has to do it left-handed, but then they shift it on the controller so that you kind of have to be using your left hand to do it. And get through the bamboo cut. So I thought that was really cool and challenging and just like very fun. And I really enjoyed that. Yeah, the hot springs were awesome. I talked about the writing thing before, but like I kind of felt like the hot springs were more worth it in this game. Like you got reflections that I thought were just like more interesting. And I was really, I enjoyed doing it more. The shrines were very similar. Again, just like super beautiful, summits to climb. In this game, sometimes you could find like, there could be altars of reflection along the way, but you would get charms from doing the shrines. Similar thing in Ghost of Tsushima, just these beautiful sorts of, agile like testing of your skills. Basically, I didn't really feel they were that hard, but it was more like Assassin's Creed, where it's like it's the parkour that you're doing with the shrines and the agility stuff. Yeah, I thought the Pillars of the Fallen were cool. I don't have a ton to say about them. I don't think there were nearly as many in Ghost of Yotei as there were in Tsushima, but there were some really cool vanity sword kits that you could find, and I'm going to get to that in a bit. But so then there were some new activities in Ghost of Yotei that were not in Ghost of Tsushima, and so here's what was new. The Sumi paintings were new. Zeni Hajiki was new. The wolf bonds were new. The puzzle boxes, the shamisen songs were new. And then of course bounties. The bounties were new. So yeah, I'll just go through them in that order. I thought the Sumi paintings were really cool, really beautiful. I have to say, I personally liked the haikus much more from Ghost of Tsushima. I really missed the haikus. Again, I'm not saying one is better than the other for any particular reason. I just liked the haikus more. I just found them to be really like emotional and reflective, and I just really loved them. But the Zeni Hajiki was pretty fun. Like, and it was, I mean, hey, I love a good mini game, in a game. And yeah, so I really liked Zeni Hajiki. I thought it was cool that you could that it was part of the story, and that there were various quests throughout the game, various bounties where it was like, one bounty was like rigging games of Zeni Hajiki. And I remember like I went to flick my coin, and inexplicably my coin just like flew off the table, and I literally was like, what the heck? I was like, I honestly just thought like, wow, I really messed that up. Like, like I thought that was really funny when that happened. And then you find out that it was rigged, and I was like, oh, you mofo, I'm gonna get you. So yeah, that was really cool. And you could like win charms from people gambling in Zeni Hajiki. So I thought that was awesome. Yeah, then you have, the wolf bonds, and where you like, save a wolf, track it to a Lord Saito hunting camp, and free the wolves there and defeat the hunters. So I thought that was like, pretty cool. Again, it didn't build as much of a relationship between you and the wolf as I thought it would, or as I wanted, but it was still fine, the puzzle boxes. So the puzzle boxes, I think there's a lot of people who might find these annoying. and there's one or two things that can come up with the puzzle boxes if you're trying to platinum the game and get the trophy of like solving all the puzzle boxes. That can be annoying, but for the most part, I thought they were really cool. I mean, what are the game have? And I think a lot of people. I had a puzzle box when I was a kid, and I don't know how many other people have ever seen them before, but as soon as I saw it in the game, I was like, oh, this is so cool! Like, you know, that you get to do these. And then you just solve them, and you'll unlock like some materials or like a traveler map, and when you find and complete all the puzzle boxes, in addition to getting the trophy for it, you will get the I think it's called the War Cry mask. It's just a vanity gear that's pretty cool. So yeah, I thought the puzzle boxes were cool. And again, it's just like, hey, add in like cool stuff for people to do. I mean, just makes the game more interesting, right? And then one of the coolest things were the shamisen songs, where it's like you can meet new people and do quests who will teach you new songs for your shamisen that gives you certain abilities and such. I thought that was awesome. I really appreciated that, and just thought like, some of my favorite quests were like, you know, the quests you're doing to unlock the new songs with people you come across the world in Ezo. So I thought that was really awesome. And then then bounties. I mean, the bounty system was totally brand new in this game, and I think everybody will agree the bounties were one of the coolest part. And in every region, you can like, you know, come across bounties, or you can go to a bounty board and like, you know, take the bounty and then go search for them. But it was so cool to have like, you know, different personalities, all these people who have like, you know, their own little shtick, basically, like Crow Genzo. You know, he has crows around, as you can tell in his name. There were a bunch of bounties that I thought were like really eclectic characters and really like, you know, cool. What was the one that there was? I think her name was like Old Lady Mai or something like that, and it was just like this old lady that like invites travelers for tea and then poisons them. And so like one thing that was interesting about that one was like I don't know, in the game I thought the old lady Mai, I thought she looked pretty young, honestly. But as soon as I saw her, I was like, I don't think you're old lady Mai. And then it was like, oh, I guess she is. I guess I have to fight her now. But so all the bounties are really cool. It was a cool way to make money, you know, just to like generate coin. And like you kind of have to do it if you really want to upgrade everything and like keep up with all that. You definitely want to be doing the bounties. But and then I mean, I guess one of the last things is just like not necessarily activities, but there's a lot of like spontaneous camps you can come across, merchant camps, Ainu camps, where you can just be like buying, you know, certain gear, other things like that, having conversations with people. So that all just added to this feeling of like spontaneity, and like it really felt like there was a lot to find out in the world, which was very cool. And it just wasn't as repetitive as Ghost of Tsushima could feel at times, where it's just like, oh, ride to the question mark from here to there. Like it wasn't just like, oh, I see a question mark on my map, let me go see what it is. It was more like, oh, what's that cool thing in the tree line right there, which just makes the game feel more immersive. It just pulls you in more, and it makes you want to explore and find everything you can in the game and in the map. And that's how a game should be. So yeah, that about wraps up the exploration and world building section for this episode. I definitely think the exploration was just like, I mean, I don't know, 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. Like, just definitely one of the best parts of the game, hands down. There's no doubt about it. So I'd recommend that to everybody. And if anybody has any thoughts on the activities or exploration, anything, hey, leave comments. Let me know what you think. I'd love to talk about it. All right, and now, like, you know, I have a couple other sections I want to get to, but they're not really that long. So yeah, gameplay. I mean, hey, we're playing video games, right? Gameplay is pretty important. So I thought the gameplay was pretty awesome in this game. I thought the 5 different weapons that you can find was so cool. I thought it was a big step up from the stances in Ghost of Tsushima. I like the stances, and I think the concept of carrying a katana and having the 5 and having 4 stances, you're using the same weapon but in different ways to different effectiveness. I thought that's a really cool concept. It was just really cool to have different weapons, that you could have the Yari, you can have the dual katana, the Kusarigama. I just thought that having all the different weapons was so cool, and switching between them and having them match up against other weapons was really cool. And the fact that they had different heavy attacks and such, I loved that. I loved the Yari. I thought the Yari spear was just awesome. I thought it was just so cool. And the Typhoon kick you can do with it was super cool. That's something I want to play New Game Plus and use the Typhoon kick a bit more than I did in my first playthrough. So yeah, I thought all the weapons were really cool. And the Kusarigama, again, another one that was awesome. What other game can you play where you can use that? I mean, I'd never even heard of the Kusarigama until I played this game. So really cool to just see that, experience that. And the way that you can use the Kusarigama for stealth kills was awesome. Oh my god. And there's an armor set. I'm trying to remember which one. It might be the Nine Tails or it might be the Crimson Kimono armor, but if you have one of those on, it extends the length it extends the distance that you can use the Kusarigama from. So that could be really cool and really awesome for stealth if you paired those together. So yeah, I thought the different weapons were awesome. Again, it provides a lot of variety into the game. It gives you just a lot more to do and increases the replayability of it. Because again, for me, I didn't get the Yari until I would say I was 2/3 of the way done with the game, or close to that when I got the Yari in Ishikari Plain. And I was like, oh man, I missed out of using this cool weapon the whole game. So yeah, but that's what I mean. That kind of makes me want to replay the game, because now I'm like, oh, I could have been in Teshio Ridge this whole time with the Yari. That would have been awesome. So that's a very smart thing about the whole player choice and about just having diversity in the weapons and everything. It makes you want to go back. The quick fire weapons were really cool. So the quick fire weapons were the equivalent of the ghost weapons from Ghost of Tsushima. You had the kunai again. Smoke bombs came back. I never use smoke bombs in Ghost of Tsushima, but I use them a lot more in Ghost of Yotei. The Mitsubishi powder was really cool, and that was really cool, the blinding dust. And then you had scorch bombs, there were a bunch of different things you could throw. So yeah, the quick fire weapons were cool. They were kind of there were no sticky bombs like you had in Ghost of Tsushima, but that was okay. I mean, and I would say they all had very similar functions and uses as they did in Ghost of Tsushima. Just added in a little trick into your arsenal. So that was really awesome. One thing I liked about the combat gameplay is I felt like you did really have to learn how to use the button combos. And don't get me wrong, it was, if you wanted to go through the game just flying through arrows and using just chucking out kunai and just chucking scorch bombs and blinding bombs and just you can do that, and I wouldn't say the game is that hard. I tried not to do that. I really wanted to get good at the melee and learn it. So as a result of that, I actually I consciously tried to not really use my ranged weapons too much, and I tried to force myself to learn how to perfect parry really well and match up different weapons with the type of weapon that they're supposed to go up against and use the right moves and everything. And I would say that if let's say you were using a spear against a katana, and that's you're supposed to use a spear against the dual sickles, you could keep button mashing as much as you want and you're not really going to get anywhere. So I really liked that, because it was you can't just button mash your way through the game. You really if you wanted to do it right, you really did have to learn the right combinations and how to like, the fundamentals of blocking and attacking and timing and everything. So I thought that was good because it created combat that was challenging. I didn't feel it was ever unfair. Like nothing ever happened that was unfair. There were times I was being challenged and was like losing or something. And then I was like, okay, you know what? Like I need to remember my fundamentals. And I would do that. And then I'd like take a deep breath and I'd be like, okay, like practice counter here. Okay, like, counter with this. Oh, attack now. Like, and then I always got through it. So I thought it was really well balanced and really well done. And yeah, like I didn't really use many of the ranged weapons until I got to the guns, where it was just like, oh, well, I have to try this. And even though I didn't use them as much as I wanted to, but the guns were awesome. I think anybody would just be like, the rifle was awesome and the pistol was awesome. Those are really cool. You only get them in Oshima Coast, so you don't have them for a lot of the game, which is why it's gonna be awesome when New Game Plus comes out in a couple days. But yeah, so I thought all that was really cool. The ranged weapons were awesome. Oh, and then talk about gameplay. The wolf. Wolf was awesome. And that's the thing. Like, as a character, I thought the wolf was a little underwhelming. But when you have the wolf in combat, the wolf was sick. And the fact that you can summon the wolf by, like, drinking a bottle of sake and then throwing the bottle at someone and, like, hitting them with a bottle is the wolf summon, I thought that was so cool. And again, like, actually in Far Cry Primal, you can summon a wolf to fight alongside you. But yeah, that was a really cool part of this game. Oh, and the fact that the wolf would be a part of the standoffs in this game was so funny. That was awesome. You can't have like, and it ended up being about the same as Ghost of Tsushima, where like, in Ghost of Tsushima, if you have the Sakai family armor, you can extend your standoff kill streak to like 5, I think. If you have the wolf with you and you get the upgrades, you can go up to 4. And I thought that was cool. And then like you do one, the wolf does one, and then you do another one, the wolf does one, and then that's the 4. So I thought that was cool to like have your back together with the wolf in the standoffs. Yeah, and then I guess just the last thing on gameplay, I'll just talk about stealth. I thought the stealth really was like pretty much the exact same as Ghost of Tsushima for the most part. Like they're not really making the stealth to be like this super realistic, like The Last of Us, like stealth or anything, or like insane mode, grounded mode, Last of Us stealth. Like the enemies have no vertical vision, basically. Like if they see you, you can just like run away and hide, and then they'll just be like, oh, whatever. Like, so in that sense, look, like I think the point of the stealth in the 2 Ghost games, it's not to be super realistic and hard and challenging. It really is more just to be fun, give you different ways you want to play the game, options. I thought the grappling hook was really cool. Like there were a lot more ways. It was more dynamic in how you could use it. And being able to like, land and jump on someone was really cool. But yeah, all in all, I mean, I thought the gameplay was really good. I enjoyed it in the game. I thought the duels were pretty cool. There were some really cool duels in there. I thought all that was really worthwhile. And yeah, I think that about wraps up everything I have for the gameplay there. And now we're getting close to the end here, but yeah, I have just a couple miscellaneous things to list out here. Yeah, so after you can basically discover like a whole quest for Jin Sakai in Ghost of Yotei, and like where they eventually reveal to you like how Jin Sakai ended his life was awesome. I thought it was just like super fantastic and fun and like rewarding as a fan of the games. Like what a cool Easter egg to like, find the Sakai family blade, and that it's called the Storm Blade. You can find Jin's helmet and like all these references to him. I think I might do it like an episode, a standalone episode about this Sakai ending and everything. But yeah, I mean, and then the connection to the Nine Tails is super crazy. So Yeah, I thought that was really fantastic, and I had just a lot of fun with that. I'd love to know what other people thought of the Sakai, mythic quest and everything. There is tons of vanity gear in this game, so that's one thing. You can play the Song of Vanity on your shamisen to lead you to all the vanity gear. So I did it. I found every single piece of vanity gear that there was to find in this game. It took me so long. Like, I thought this would just be done in like, I don't know, like an hour or two tops. It took me like 5 hours where I was just riding around following the guiding wind from vanity gear to vanity gear. I found a lot of it throughout the game too, but like there was a ton of vanity gear to find. Like, and what's cool about that is that, again, like, it's just options. Like, it's just giving people options. It's harmless. It doesn't take anything away. It's only just adding. And if let's say there's 20 like little things throughout a game that are just awesome, that are just added in, and they're little things for anyone to find. Yeah, that's what makes a game awesome. Those 20 little things coming together, being like, wow, this was a fun playthrough. Like, this was just a great game. So yeah, all the different types of vanity gear. Shout out Sucker Punch for that. That was so cool. I had so many different combinations of outfits. Oh, the loadouts. The loadouts were fantastic. That was another UI thing where it was like, the fact that you could design your set loadouts of types of armor and charms and everything, and just like auto switch between them, was just fantastic. And that was such a huge step up. And everybody knows this from Ghost of Tsushima, because there were times where it was like, oh, what if you want to be in a stealth outfit versus the Sakai family armor outfit where you have the standoff. Like, it was so annoying to have to like scroll back and forth in your menu to change, whereas like having all the loadout options was just like, oh, loadout 1 stealth, boom, oh, loadout 2 like different colors and designed for like head-to-head combat, and you just click it and then all the stuff is equipped. So that was just fantastic. And then, yeah, I mean, I just wanted to actually talk about like the economy in the game. Like, so this was different. There was actually like real money in the game. In Ghost of Tsushima, you found supplies, and you would use supplies just to, mainly just to upgrade your sword and armor, and that was pretty much it. In this, there's really a lot more you can buy with money, and you can sell a lot of your supplies too. So, and you can get money for it, and then again, you can like buy other stuff with money. But so I thought it was cool that was involved. And generally speaking, there were a lot more types of materials to find in Ghost of Yotei than there were in Tsushima. In Tsushima, it was, and again, I don't think it was bad, but I think it just added a lot more complexity into Ghost of Yotei and just made you more like, oh, what's that? Like, let me pick that up. And even as an example with the flowers was kind of the same in Yotei as it was in Tsushima, where it's like you buy vanity gear with flowers, but there were like 10 times more types of flowers to find. And again, this is another small thing that almost like doesn't matter, but like I just thought it was so cool that each region had all these different types of flowers, and like, you pick them up and then they get added to your inventory, and it was just like, oh, that's awesome. Like, it just immerses you in the world. It's like, oh, you're in the Teshio Ridge region, here's a different type of flower. Oh, you're in Oshima Coast, oh, look how beautiful this new type of flower is. Like, just a really cool thing to have there. So I really enjoyed all that. Yeah, just a few other things. Oh, the dye houses. Yeah, the dye houses were super cool. The fact that there's just like, so many different colors of different types of vanity gear that you can get from the dye houses was really awesome. I love that they had that. Each region had its own dye house of a different color. White dye, red dye, black dye, blue dye, like all of which was just very cool. So loved that. All right, I only got 2 things left here, y'all. Oh my god. Takezo the Unrivaled. This boy. Oh my god. This fight, I think this fight is just ridiculous. And like, I'm just, and I think anybody who's played the game, and if you're listening to this right now, I mean, you know what I'm talking about if you did this fight. This is like probably the most notorious thing in the whole game, and everybody talks about it on Reddit and everywhere else, but like Takezo is just ridiculous. And really it's like I feel like they like his fight mechanics just break the game. That's why it's so hard, like because the game mechanics that typically work just don't when you fight him. So, but I mean, I did think he had a cool storyline, and like, you know, having the fight take place on top of Mount Yotei was really, really cool and beautiful, and just like a great way to, you know, to have that quest line end and get that trophy. So I thought that was really cool. Wanted to mention Takezo. Shout out Takezo, no longer unrivaled. Gotcha. Nah, he didn't want to be unrivaled anymore. He was ready to move on. He just wanted a good fight. Which again, what a lifestyle. What a crazy life to live, and to have that you know, be your life's purpose. But it just shows you it was a different time. It was a different time. People were seeking different things. So yeah, then this is the last thing I'm going to end on for this miscellaneous section, and one of the last things I have for this whole episode, this whole review. Taro was so funny. The fact that they had in this like 12-year-old kid who was just scavenging supplies off of dead bodies and then selling it to you, and that he was like so like boisterous and fun, and the fact that like, you know, you'd clear out an entire Lord Saito camp, and like, you know, there'd be like all the bodies piled up at the end as the Matsuma are going to get rid of them, and then there's Taro just like picking through, pulling armor off the corpses and everything. It was like this 12-year-old kid who just follows your character around the entire game, just picking supplies off bodies, was so morbid, but he was also a great character, and it was just like very comical and hilarious. So and the fact that his shop is like set up at, you know, Dead Man's Tree in Tokachi Range was just like, dude, go home. Who are you? Yeah, so shout out Taro. Shout out Taro. Hey, I thought this game was awesome. As a final verdict here, I mean, this was a great game. Like, I would overall, I would say it's like slightly better than Ghost of Tsushima. All things added up, I think it's more fun to play through. You know, once you get the guns, once you unlock everything, I think the exploration is awesome. I wonder how fun it'll be, like the exploration piece of it on New Game Plus, or if it'll feel like, well, you know, I've already found all the Altars of Reflection once, and I've already done all this. Like, you know, I don't really need to explore all over again. But yeah, I mean, I thought overall this was a really great game. I thought it was really worth the time. It was like about 50 hours, you know, about the same as Ghost of Tsushima. And I had a really fun time playing it. I really enjoyed it. And I'll probably do a New Game Plus playthrough at some point. It's all dependent on time, y'all. You all know that, but yeah, so I think that is all I got for this episode, you know, for this Ghost of Yotei full review. Launch of season 2 of this podcast. Super exciting. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. If you've played the game, I hope that you have enjoyed it as much as I have. If you haven't played the game and you're listening to this right now, well, I mean, I think I may have just spoiled like literally the entire game for you, so I certainly hope that didn't happen. But if you haven't played the game, go play it. You'll love it. It's a fantastic game, and it's definitely worth the playthrough. And Legends comes out next year. New Game Plus is coming out. I'm sure there's going to be more. I hope there will be a DLC. So that'll be really cool to see, and obviously we'll have more episodes coming just about some of the main story, some of the stuff there is in Ghost of Yotei, and obviously I'll do more episodes when if and when the DLC comes out. So I think that is all I got for all of you. Want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Ghost of Yotei Tsushima Gamecast. Super glad to be back. Super excited to do more episodes. And hey, y'all, just remember, if you are going to be embarking on a full-scale revenge quest at any point soon, just remember to stop, smell, and pick the flowers along the way. Look up at the bright, beautiful blue sky and find some time to enjoy your life along the way.